The grand hall of the Varelian Empire shone with silver light, its tall crystal pillars glowing like stars. Thousands of alien nobles filled the chamber, whispering and laughing as guards dragged a man toward the throne. The sound of his chains echoed like thunder, heavy and cold. He was human. His name was Commander Reese, one of the last Terran warriors captured after the war that burned across half the galaxy. His uniform was torn, his face scarred, but his eyes still carried something unbroken. At the top of the steps sat Princess Seraphine of Varelia, the heir to 1,000 conquered worlds. Her armor shone gold, her crown pulsed with faint light, and her voice when she spoke made the air tremble. "So this," she said, standing, "is the human who destroyed my fleet with one ship." Her words echoed across the chamber. The nobles hissed, and laughter followed. They saw Reese not as a soldier, but as a defeated beast brought to amuse the court. Seraphine stepped closer. "Kneel before me, Terran." Reese lifted his head slowly. He looked at her, calm, silent, and for a moment their eyes locked. There was no fear there. No submission. Only quiet fire. "I said kneel," she repeated, her tone sharp as a blade. Reese smiled, a small, simple, dangerous smile. The crowd gasped. No one ever defied the princess. Guards rushed forward and pressed their spears to his neck, but he didn't move. He stood straight, even as blood ran down his skin where the blades touched. "Your species," she said coldly, "was given mercy once. Now you'll learn your place." "Maybe," Reese said quietly. "You should learn yours first." The words fell heavy in the silent hall. For a moment even the lights seemed to dim. Seraphine's golden eyes narrowed. "Do you wish to die, human?" He didn't answer. He only raised his head higher, his gaze calm, steady, and filled with something that even she couldn't name. Something terrifying. Behind his calm in his right wrist a small chip blinked once. No one noticed. Far above the planet in the silent void, a Terran warship, the Helios, received the signal. Hidden in the planet's shadow for weeks, its engines began to hum. The ship's AI whispered across encrypted channels. Terran fleets in deep space stirred. But on the surface, in the throne room, everything stayed still. "Do you think your smile will save you?" the princess asked, stepping closer. Her shadow fell across his face. Reese looked up at her and said softly, "It's not meant to save me." She frowned, confused. "Then what is it meant for?" "To remind you," he said, "that humanity kneels to no one." A murmur rose from the crowd. Some aliens shouted for his death. Others simply stared as if seeing for the first time that the man before them was not broken. Seraphine's pride burned. Her hand lifted, summoning a weapon. From her palm a spear of pure light formed, sharp and deadly. She aimed it at his chest. Then die standing. The energy crackled, but before she could strike, the lights flickered. Every crystal torch dimmed. The air trembled with low vibration. The palace walls shook as something vast moved above them, something heavy, metallic, and alive. The guards looked upward, fear creeping into their faces. What is that?" one shouted. Seraphine turned her head. Outside the great hall's transparent ceiling, clouds burned with blue light. A shape appeared, massive, dark, blocking out the twin suns. It wasn't a ship like theirs, it was older, stronger, Terran. The Helios uncloaked. A shadow of Earth's fury hung over the capital. "Impossible," Seraphine whispered. "It was destroyed." Reese smiled again. "We don't break easily." The floor shook harder as alarms screamed through the city. Distant explosions echoed, defense turrets overloading, communications collapsing. The crowd screamed and scattered, but the princess stood frozen, staring at him. He should have looked proud. He didn't. His face was calm, sad even. "This doesn't have to be war," he said quietly. "Not again." Seraphine looked at him with disbelief. "You threaten my world and speak of peace?" "I don't threaten," he said. "I remind." Outside, the Terran ship's cannons glowed red but did not fire. It hung in silence, a warning written across the stars. Rhys stepped forward, his chains breaking with a metallic snap. The guard stumbled back, fear replacing arrogance. His strength, his confidence. It felt unnatural, almost mythical. He stopped in front of the princess. For a long second, neither spoke. Then he said, "You think this is power, sitting on a throne of chains?" She didn't answer. He leaned closer and whispered, "Power is when you don't need to use it." And then, before anyone could react, he walked away. The guards dared not stop him. From the hall's entrance, he turned one last time. His eyes met hers again. "Tell your mother," he said. "The galaxy remembers who started the fires." The doors opened and he stepped into the burning light outside. Behind him, the princess stood silent, the crowd trembling, the throne of chains suddenly feeling colder than ever. Outside, thunder rolled, not from the sky, but from the heavens. The Helios waited, and above every world that once mocked humanity, a new fear was born. The palace alarms screamed through the night sky, their echoes mixing with thunder from the Terran warship above. The Helios hung over the capital like a dark god, silent but terrifying, its enormous cannons glowing faint red. Inside the great hall, smoke drifted from cracked ceilings. The nobles ran in chaos. Guards shouted orders that no one followed. And in the middle of it all, Commander Rhys stood calm, his chains lying broken at his feet. The princess, Seraphine, stared at him. Her heart pounded not from fear but from something she had never felt before. Confusion. "You called that thing here?" she whispered. Rhys didn't look at her. He watched the light through the ceiling. "It was already here," he said softly. "Waiting." Seraphine's voice shook with anger. "You planned this. You dare bring your human warship over my world?" He turned toward her, his eyes calm. "I brought it because I knew your people would never listen otherwise." The hall trembled again as a shockwave rolled through the city. Outside, Terran dropships pierced the clouds, their hulls shining black like mirrors. They didn't fire. They simply hovered, watching. Rhys walked slowly toward the throne. The guards raised their spears, but Seraphine raised her hand to stop them. She wanted answers more than blood. "You said humanity doesn't kneel," she said, her tone low and sharp. "But what do you want? Revenge?" Rhys stopped at the bottom of the steps. "No," he said. "Justice." "Justice?" she repeated. "You destroyed my fleet." He met her gaze. "Your fleet bombed a Terran colony. 30,000 civilians, no soldiers, just families." Her lips parted slightly. She had heard about that raid long ago, classified, hidden from public record. It was said to be a training mistake. He saw the truth in her eyes. "You knew." She hesitated, her voice trembling. "I was ordered to oversee the operation. I didn't know what would happen. I didn't know they were civilians." "You didn't ask," he said quietly. Her words died in her throat. Rhys turned toward the huge doors at the end of the hall. "The galaxy remembers," he said, "even if you choose to forget." Suddenly, a burst of static crackled from her communicator. Her guards froze. A deep voice filled the room. It was her mother, the Empress of Varelia. "Seraphine," the Empress said coldly, "you've allowed a human to desecrate my throne. End this now." The princess flinched. "Mother, please listen. The Terrans are not attacking. They could destroy us, but they're not. Something is different. There is nothing to understand. He is an animal who refuses to kneel. Kill him, or you will share his fate." The transmission ended in silence. Rhys looked at her. "Now you understand the chains I was talking about." Her golden eyes flickered with conflict. She was the daughter of an empire built on fear, and yet, standing before her was a man who had every reason to destroy her, but didn't. Outside, thunder rolled again. This time the sound wasn't from the sky. It came from the palace walls. The Varelian army was mobilizing. Tanks, drones, and soldiers flooded the streets, surrounding the building. Through the cracked ceiling, Seraphine could see the reflection of the Helios's red light bathing the city like a second sun. "Your fleet can't win," she said. "Our planetary shields will—" Her words stopped. Through the clouds, a column of light pierced down, striking the sky barrier. The shield rippled and broke. The Terran ship had fired a single precision pulse, not to destroy, but to show power. In an instant, every weapon on the surface went silent. Systems overloaded. Varelian weapons froze in their carriers. The Terran code had hacked their war network. Reese didn't gloat. He just said, "We don't need to conquer. We only need you to stop killing." The princess stared at him. You could have ended us already. Why haven't you?" He took a slow breath. "Because humanity knows what it means to lose everything." A faint explosion echoed from far away. One of her own ships trying to break orbit, instantly vaporized by the Helios. The glow faded. Silence returned. Seraphine walked down the steps slowly, uncertainly. The nobles watched in disbelief. She stopped just a few feet away from him. "You hate me," she said. "You should. My hands are not clean." Reese looked at her. "Maybe," he said. "But hatred won't rebuild what's gone." For a moment they stood in silence, surrounded by the ruins of the hall, the Empire's pride reduced to smoke and fear. Then a sudden blast shattered the doorway. A squad of Varelian soldiers stormed in, led by General Acor, her most loyal commander. He shouted, "Get away from him, my princess!" and fired. Reese pushed her aside. The plasma bolt hit his shoulder, burning through armor. He didn't fall. He turned, grabbed a fallen guard's weapon, and shot once. The bolt hit Acor's weapon, melting it in half. He could have killed him. He didn't. Seraphine looked at him, blood on his arm, pain in his eyes, but still standing. "Still smiling? Why?" she whispered. He looked at her. "Because I'm human." Outside, the Helios began to transmit a single message across every channel of the Varelian Empire. "Humanity kneels to no one, but we fight for peace." The words echoed through the city, through the Empire, through the stars, and for the first time in her life, the alien princess didn't feel powerful. She felt small and free. The night sky over the Varelian capital burned with strange colors. The Terran dreadnought Helios floated like a dark moon, silent and unstoppable. Below, fires spread through the lower districts. The Empire trembled for the first time in centuries. Inside the palace, Princess Seraphine stood by the shattered throne. Her people were terrified, her army silent, her mother furious. And in the center of the hall stood the human, Commander Reese, calm, bleeding, and unbroken. He looked at her, and she could not look away. Everything about him felt impossible. How could one man stand against an empire and not fear death? "Why are you really here, human?" she asked quietly. "No soldier brings a ship like that just for revenge." Reese didn't answer. He looked toward the night sky through the broken ceiling. The faint stars reflected in his eyes. "I'm here," he said slowly, "because this is where it started." Seraphine frowned. "What do you mean?" He turned to her. His voice was steady but heavy like stone. "This planet, your empire, was built on the ruins of my home." The hall went silent. He walked toward her slowly, his boots echoing against the cracked marble floor. Every step carried the weight of a memory. 20 years ago, he began, there was a Terran colony called EOS 9. It was small, farmers, scientists, children. They didn't even have weapons. But your empire saw our flag in orbit and sent a fleet to investigate. Seraphine's throat tightened. I know of EOS 9, she said quietly. It was destroyed during border expansion. They said it was uninhabited. Reese stopped a few feet from her. His eyes burned. It wasn't uninhabited. It was my home. Her heart dropped. He continued, voice low but sharp like a blade wrapped in calm. I was 15 when the sky turned gold. We thought it was dawn. Then the first bombardment began. I watched my mother's house turn into glass. I saw my father run toward the flames to save others. He never came back. The princess's hands trembled. She remembered the reports on the purification of EOS sector, approved by her mother, the Empress, and she had signed the tactical clearance. Your signature was on the order, he said softly. Her breath caught. No, I didn't know what it was. I was only a cadet. I was told it was a training strike on empty ground. You were told what you needed to believe, Reese said, his tone calm but filled with quiet sorrow. And that belief killed thousands. She took a step back, shaking. You came here to kill me then. He looked at her, his expression unreadable. I came here to see if the daughter of the Empire was any different from the mother. A thunderous voice echoed across the palace, the Empress herself, speaking through a massive hologram that shimmered to life above the hall. You dare question your blood, Seraphine? You stand with the human? The Empress's face was sharp, perfect, merciless. Her crown glowed brighter than the sun. Mother, Seraphine said, stepping forward, he's telling the truth. We destroyed a colony, children, families. We can't— Silence, the Empress roared. They are animals. We rule by strength, not pity. Her image turned toward Reese. You think you frighten me, Terran? Your kind breeds like insects. I will burn your world again if it rises. Reese didn't flinch. He looked directly at the projection. Then you'll find the next world is not made of sand, Empress. It's made of fire. The helios above the city flashed red. A warning. A single pulse rippled through the sky, shaking the capital's towers. The Empress paused for the first time. She could see in his eyes that this man wasn't bluffing. You wouldn't dare, she said. Reese replied softly. Try me. The hologram vanished. The hall fell into eerie silence. Seraphine looked at him, fear and awe mixing in her voice. You really would destroy us? He turned away. No, I'd destroy the idea of what you've become. She didn't understand at first, but then she realized he wasn't just fighting an empire. He was fighting the sickness inside it, the belief that domination was destiny. You could end all this, she said, and yet you hold back. Why? He looked back at her. Because humanity learned long ago that victory without mercy turns you into what you hate. Her golden eyes softened. Then teach me, she whispered, before it's too late. Before he could answer, a blast shook the palace. A Varelian warship, acting without command, opened fire on the Helios. Through the cracked ceiling, blue fire lit up the clouds. The Helios turned, its cannons glowing white-hot. Reese shouted into his wristcom, Do not fire! That's an unauthorized ship. But the signal was jammed. The Varelian ship launched a missile straight toward the palace. He grabbed the princess and pulled her down as the missile exploded nearby. The hall shattered. Flames and smoke filled the air. He shielded her with his body as the ceiling began to fall. In that chaos, Seraphine looked up at him. Blood, fire, and dust all around. And saw something she'd never seen before in any being across the stars. A human risking his life for the one who once ordered his death. For the first time in her life, the Princess of Varelia whispered, Maybe we were wrong about your kind. Reese, bleeding and barely conscious, gave a small, tired smile. Maybe you're starting to see. The palace burned. Flames climbed the marble walls like hungry serpents. The golden banners of the Varelian Empire fell one by one into the smoke. The once proud heart of the galaxy's might was breaking apart, and at its center, a wounded human and an alien princess crawled through the ruins together. Commander Reese pushed a broken column aside, his shoulder bleeding. Beside him, Princess Seraphine coughed, her face streaked with ash. Above them, the sky was split between two forces, the Helios and the Varelian fleet, locked in a silent, deadly dance. The entire capital trembled beneath their power. From the calm in Seraphine's ear came her mother's voice. Calm, cold, cruel. Seraphine, you have shamed your bloodline. Step away from the human. The princess froze. Mother, stop this. We're destroying our own world. You sound like him, the Empress hissed. Weak, emotional, human. The word human fell like poison. Seraphine looked at Reese, who was trying to stand. His armor was scorched, his eyes still sharp. I won't leave you, she said quietly. He gave a tired smile. You may have no choice. Outside, through the fractured ceiling, she could see her mother's command ship, the Celestial Crown, descending from orbit. Its shadow covered the entire city. Thousands of defense drones swarmed around it like silver dust. The Empress was coming in person. Reese touched his wrist console. A flicker of light appeared, the voice of his ship's AI calm and mechanical. Commander, Varelian forces outnumber us 10-1. Recommend full orbital retreat. He hesitated. No. We stay until the civilians are clear. That will guarantee destruction, sir. He smiled faintly. Then let's make it memorable. The AI went silent for a moment, then replied, Understood. Humanity remembers. The channel cut. Seraphine looked at him, stunned. You're staying here to die? Reese turned to her. To show them that mercy isn't weakness. It's power. Before she could answer, a deafening roar filled the air. The celestial crown landed outside the palace, crushing what was left of the royal gardens. A ramp opened and the Empress descended, surrounded by soldiers in silver armor. Her voice echoed through every speaker in the city. My people, behold your fallen princess standing beside a creature of dirt. Watch as I erase this shame from history. Seraphine stood. Her legs trembled, but her eyes burned. Mother, please. Look around you. Your empire is dying. These flames are not from the humans. They're from our pride. The Empress raised her hand, summoning a spear of plasma. Then burn with your guilt. The weapon fired. Reese moved first. The blast hit his chest plate and he flew backward, crashing through the stone wall. Reese! Seraphine screamed. Smoke filled the air. The Empress stepped forward slowly, her cloak sweeping through the fire. Now you see, daughter, she said softly. Mercy kills. Power survives. But before she could strike again, a sound filled the air. A deep metallic hum that made every soldier freeze. The ground shook. The ceiling split apart and light poured down. From the clouds above, the Helios descended. The Terran dreadnought came lower and lower until its hull almost touched the palace spires. Every weapon on the ship was aimed at the Empress's army, but it didn't fire. Instead, a massive hologram appeared in the sky, Reese's voice broadcasting across the planet. This is Commander Reese of the Terran Defense Force. We came not to conquer, but to stop the endless killing. Your empire calls us savages, yet it is you who burn your own cities. Every soldier, every drone, every noble froze. The whole planet listened. The age of fear ends tonight. Stand down, or face extinction by your own fire. The Empress screamed in rage. You dare threaten me in my own sky. She raised her arm again, summoning her entire fleet. All ships, target the human vessel. The clouds exploded with light. Hundreds of Varelian warships rose into formation, engines roaring, weapons charged. The sky turned white, and then blue, and then vanished into static. For a moment, it seemed as though the galaxy itself held its breath. Seraphine stared upward. He can't win, she whispered. Then through the fire, Reese stood again. His armor glowed red-hot, cracked but functional. His eyes locked on hers. It's not about winning, he said softly. It's about ending the war they started. He lifted his arm, revealing a small detonator, not for destruction, but for something older, hidden and terrifying. Helios, he said. Release Protocol Astreus. A low vibration filled the air. From the Terran dreadnought's underbelly, a sphere of light expanded. Not a weapon, but a pulse of energy that rippled across the planet's sky. Every Varelian weapon shut down instantly. Power grids collapsed. The Empress's command ship went dark. Her soldiers fell to their knees. Their weapons useless. Reese looked at the Empress and said, Now we're equal. Seraphine stepped forward, her voice shaking but strong. Mother, it's over. Your throne of chains has fallen. The Empress stared at her, trembling with fury and disbelief. You would betray your blood for them? Seraphine looked at Reese, then back at her mother. Not for them, she said. For what's right. The Empress screamed and lunged forward but the ground shook again. The Helios engines flared, blasting wind through the hall. Reese raised his hand. Enough! The shockwave knocked everyone to the floor, and except him and the princess, standing side by side. When the dust settled, the Empress lay defeated among the broken stones of her throne. And for the first time in history, the galaxy's most feared empire was silent. The fires of the palace had turned to smoke. The golden towers of the Varelian Empire stood cracked and blackened under a new dawn. For the first time in living memory, the capital world was silent. No commands, no fear, just silence, and the sound of wind moving through ruins. The Empress's army was gone. Her fleet hung powerless in orbit, their engines dead from the Terran pulse that stripped their weapons clean. And in the middle of it all, on the shattered floor of what was once the throne of chains, stood Commander Reese and Princess Seraphine. He was bleeding, his armor shattered, but he still stood tall. His face was calm, his eyes steady. Seraphine knelt beside her mother's motionless body. The Empress still breathed, barely. Her crown lay broken beside her. The once invincible ruler of 1,000 worlds now looked small, fragile even. "Mother," Seraphine whispered. "Please, stop fighting." The Empress opened her eyes, faint but burning. "You are no daughter of mine," she rasped. "You brought this shame upon our blood." Seraphine looked down, tears mixing with soot. "No, Mother. You brought this shame on all of us." The Empress tried to rise, but her strength failed. Her hand reached for her daughter, not in love, but in desperation, and then fell. The light in her eyes dimmed. Seraphine closed her eyes. For the first time in her life, she felt both free and utterly alone. Above them, the Terran dreadnought Helios remained still, watching. Its enormous hull reflected the first light of dawn. Across every channel, human voices filled the air, soldiers, scientists, civilians, all listening to one man's final transmission. Reese activated his wristcom, his voice low but clear. "This is Commander Reese. The war is over. The Empire has fallen." The words echoed across the stars. On distant worlds, the oppressed cheered. In hidden colonies, children looked to the sky and whispered the name Terran. The universe had changed, not by invasion but by an act of defiance that refused to kneel. Seraphine rose slowly and looked at him. "You could have destroyed us all," she said softly. "Why didn't you?" Reese looked at the sunrise through the cracked ceiling. "Because destruction is easy," he said. "Rebuilding takes courage." She stepped closer. "You risked everything, even your life." "For what?" He turned his gaze toward her. "For a chance that your people might see what mine once did. That freedom means more than fear." For a long moment, neither spoke. The air felt heavier, yet calm. Outside, Terran dropships were already landing. Not with soldiers, but with medics and engineers. They began helping the wounded, human and alien alike. The princess watched them, her golden eyes wide with disbelief. "They're helping us?" Reese gave a faint smile. "That's what humans do. We fight, we bleed, but we always help rebuild." She looked at him again, at the human who refused to kneel, who defied her mother's power, who smiled in the face of death. "And what about you?" she asked quietly. "What will you do now?" He looked down at his broken gauntlet where the insignia of Earth was half burned away. "I'll go home," he said. "If there's still a home to go to." Seraphine hesitated, then stepped closer. "If humanity needs a friend," she said softly, "you will find one on this world." Reese turned to her, surprise flickering in his tired eyes. "You'd risk that? After everything that happened?" She nodded slowly. "Maybe it's time someone from my bloodline learned how to rebuild too." The moment was quiet. No grand speeches. No music of victory. Just two survivors standing amid the ashes of history. A shadow moved in the distance. One of the palace walls collapsed, revealing the view of the capital. The city stretched to the horizon, towers burning, ships crashed, civilians hiding among ruins. Reese took a deep breath. "Helios," he said into his comm. "Begin evacuation protocol. Prioritize civilians." "Acknowledged, Commander," the AI replied. "Earth Command has received your signal." "You did it," he smiled faintly. "No," he said. "We did it." Seraphine watched him step into the light, standing tall despite his wounds. His shadow fell across the ruined throne, the same throne where he once stood in chains. Now that throne was empty, and in that silence, the galaxy felt something new. Not fear, not obedience, but hope. The Helios loudspeakers activated one last time, projecting a single message in every known tongue. Humanity kneels to no one, but stands for all. The words spread like fire through the stars, a promise, a warning, a legend. Seraphine turned to look at him. "They'll remember you, Reese, across every world." He gave that same calm smile, the one that began it all. "They won't remember me," he said softly. "They'll remember what we became when we stopped kneeling." He looked at the rising sun, orange and gold spilling across alien skies, and took a long, steady breath. Then, without another word, the Terran warrior walked forward, disappearing into the dawn light. His smile the last thing the princess saw, and in that moment the galaxy changed forever.